Expelled college students of Reddit. Why are you expelled? Installing Bitcoin miners on all the computers in a video editing lab. Not me, but happened to a teammate on my rowing team. He got busted for drinking, which isn't an expellable offense. But to get back at the Ra that caught him, he hid into a bag, went to the guy's first floor window, and threw it into the Ra's room. What made things worse is that the Ra had a box fan in the window. He had hit it and sprayed everywhere in the room. Literally, the it hit the fan. He was promptly expelled for being off campus with a member of the opposite sex without proper supervision. No, seriously. Apparently you can get kicked out for not showing up to class and failing everything. Who knew? I shot a firework out of my ass in a campus-owned house. I had a friend who skipped all classes and failed everything because all he wanted to do was play LOL. He got a warning that if he didn't get his grades up he would be suspended for a year. He got suspended. When he went back to the school a year later, the same thing happened again. Now he can't go back to that college again. My roommate got expelled for basically never going to class. Not even when there was an important exam. He spent all night smoking weed with me and playing video games, not with me, and then slept all day until about 5 PM. Like I would wake up, go to my 8:30 lecture, get lunch, go to lab 2-5, then come back to my room and my roommate was still sleeping. I found out the following summer that he had gotten a letter from the university asking him not to come back. Last I heard of him, he had enrolled at a commuter school, where he made the dean's list. I spent too much time drinking and not going to class. I was a junior with a 1.6 overall GPA. University said they didn't need my ilk around there and would open my spot for someone who would appreciate it. This got my attention. I went to the dean and talked with him for a couple of hours trying to get back in. He said no. 19 out of 20 of you guys go back to doing the same thing. I told him I would be the exception. He gave me another chance. From then on out it was 4.0 every semester. I finally got my GPA up over 2.5 so I could graduate. I made sure and went back to the dean's office to thank him and tell him that I was that 1 out of 20 that made it. Currently I'm aware of a group of international students getting expelled from my school. They've been whispering to each other during exams in another language. And as luck would have it, my professor happens to speak that language and has been slowly building a case against them without their knowing it. The kids somehow also got the solutions to every homework and exam last semester, which is very similar to what we've been assigned this semester. However, the kids are so ducking lazy they blindly copy whole solutions, not realizing numbers are different. Sometimes units are metric and they answer in English. And one problem asked for something completely different than they solved for using the exact procedure to solve last semester's homework. They're absolutely ducked and I'm kinda excited to see it. One of them had a 3.75 GPA, was on the verge of being auto-admitted to our MSBS program. He's probably been cheating his whole college career. We're 2 semesters away from graduation. Plot twist, the advisor to that program is the instructor that is currently building the case against them. So basically that guy is mega ducked. Professor is a savage. He's been grading all their homework and exams like everything was fine, and one day unleashed a dossier of its justice to comb. Edit. Anyone interested in an update? Comb didn't expel anyone after all. They all just completely lost the homework portion of their grade, 20%, so they're probably all getting C's at best. When I was in college I got suspended 3 times for bad grades. At one point my GPA was a 1.0. I finally got it together and graduated with a degree in finance, and a few years later went back and got a second bachelor's in accounting. I think my GPA is a 3.2 now. I'm not working in finance or accounting because I can't find a job. I mostly just hate my life now and wish for death. I got expelled in 2004 for inciting a riot. Was expelled the first time I went to college. Back in the 90s. I remember on orientation day, we walked by the fraternities and my dad got all excited. Walked up to the Phi Kappa Taus. They were pretty cool. Acted all interested in me. I didn't look around anywhere else. Hell, I was 17 and very intimidated. I rushed them. And turns out, they were massive party animals. I lived and worked 40 minutes away from school. And had a girlfriend back home. So far, right? scheduled all my classes at 7 to 11 am. It was hard to get up at 5 and drive into school and pay attention in a 1,000 seat lecture hall. So I started to stay at the frat house and blow off my classes. The first semester I got to 0.0. The next, I got to 0.33, 1D. I wasn't the only one expelled from school that year. Me and 4 other guys were competing for the lowest GPA. What a ducking waste. Stupid colleges wasted on the young. I went back in my 30s and got my degrees. But I wasted a tremendous amount of time working at jobs for people. I was making a search engine for our school teacher evaluation page. It absolutely blew up in popularity and a large portion of the school was using it, about 5k views per day. Essentially it was like Rate My Professors, except it used the evals that they force students to do at the end of the class as data. I also added features that made it more desirable to students. It became so popular that it was showing up on the front page of Google for certain teacher names. Some of those teachers had low ratings and got pissed off and complained. I had unintentionally violated IP laws because the evaluations were under password protections and my site was not. The only reason I didn't get expelled was because the dean of my department had my back. He did research and concluded the information should not have been private in the first place. Then sent a public information request to make it so my project did not break the law. I definitely had people asking for my expulsion for a scary amount of time. Heard this story of this dude who got kicked out for leaving on break to train with Al-Qaeda. I was expelled from my first university for having sex in the library. Well, for getting caught having sex in the library. I learned about a year later that the girl I had sex with did not get expelled. Because male privilege, etc. Lol, this thread would show up right before an exam I'm about to fail. I went to a private Christian university, and I have a friend who got expelled for supposedly exorcising a demon out of someone in the middle of a wide open courtyard. Was expelled my second semester at another US school, think Michigan, Montana, North Dakota. It was my second semester being an older transfer student from the mid-Atlantic. I ended up slipping on ice and fracturing my femur, my humerus and 2 fingers on ice outside my apartment. I spent 3 weeks in the hospital during that time recovering and doing PT. Finally got home. My apartment was 30 minutes away from campus. Since I couldn't drive nor did they have cabs I could afford or public transit. Ended up failing everything and having to move back home. Only a year later I find out about an office that can help you out with getting tuition back and expunging your record of classes due to medical issues. Had to wait a year to get back in. This year I'm finding myself in the same situation with aplastic anemia, but I only got diagnosed 1 week before my insurance expired. I'm 16 credits from graduation and I'm stuck with the bureaucratic processes of trying to take classes of the summer. It'll probably take me to mid-July, which means I have to come back in the fall to finish up. I'm about ready to give up. Not me, but a guy who lived on the floor below me my freshman year. Dude was already a nuisance. He got drunk and wandered into town one night. Broke a window on a private residence because he thought it was our dorm. Got arrested for breaking said window. When the school found out, they told him that if you got into any trouble either with the police or the school's internal justice system, which is actually decent, it's student run, then he would be thrown out. Same goes for getting transported to the local hospital due to excessive drunkenness. Cut to Halloween night when his roommate found him passed out covered in vomit on the floor of his dorm room. He tested positive for alcohol, marijuana, and sugar. I'm pretty sure he was kicked out before he got out of the hospital. Personally knew a bright individual that was kicked out of a prestigious university for skipping too many classes. He showed up for the important classes, got A's on all of the tests, but due to the fact that he had missed too many classes, he failed all of them. Must not have read that page of the handbook. He now works at the local grocery store and I see him when I come home on breaks. Edit. 2. College was Princeton. He was on a full ride. Obligatory. I'm not an expelled college student, but I knew a guy who got expelled from an Ivy League for getting caught with too much sugar. He works at California Pizza Kitchen now. Was a 90% plus student in high school. Went to a prestigious college that required you to keep an 80% plus average. I did pretty well but ended up getting an eye infection during the first semester of midterms and struggled to play catch up. Ended up getting depressed about grades and the pressure to do well. Depression is a killer. Started skipping class to sleep and started having anxiety issues. Studied for exams but anxiety got so bad that I couldn't physically make myself write exams. Failed the first semester. Failed the second semester. Continued to stay depressed. Got kicked out of school. As morbid as this sounds, I was able to go home to my family who were my biggest support. They stood by me while I took the year off. Worked in retail. Got in a better state of mind to handle depression. Then went to college near my house. Not as great as the previous college. Continued to struggle with grades. Even failed a few courses. My family continued to support me. Spiritually, faith in my religion helped too. This May I hope to graduate and have a job lined up. My Asian parents still don't understand the extent of my depression but they support me. The worst part is I am not alone and there are statistics to show that this is quite common. But not everyone has the same opportunities as myself. TLDR, depression is rich. But don't let that drag you down. Keep trying. Family is the best. At UCSC a bunch of Porter students were expelled for stealing and cooking a $5,000 koi. Here's the article. I'm bipolar. Rocked college and got straight A's while I was manic as it sleeping 3 hours a night for several years. Drinking, drugs, partying and all that. Then I curled up in a dark hole and cried for several months and couldn't even hardly wake up enough to go to any of my classes. Got academic probation and told my advisors I had no idea what was happening to me. This wasn't the real me. Managed to pull off another year of straight A's and little to no sleep. Then I crashed again and did nothing but sleep for months on end, wanting nothing more from life than for it to end. As soon as possible please. By my own hand if necessary. This time I got kicked out completely. Fast forward a few more years of the mania depression cycles and it eventually got so bad that I stole a car while manic and drove 800 miles across the US on some paranoid delusional insanity. I thought I was phasing between alternate realities and the government was going to try to capture me and study me to see how I was doing it. Don't ask. Luckily I ended up in the hospital instead of jail and I got diagnosed finally. Now I take a duckton of medicine. And I'm not quite so crazy anymore. The end. Our bipolar is leaking. Not me, but my best friend in college was expelled. He became a nasty drunk and threw a brick through his ex-girlfriend's window. His rich parents bailed him out and got him into the college that they worked for. Years later, he is sober and recently got married. He's probably still a ducknizzle though. This is not my story. It's the story of a classmate. We will nickname him the idiot. The idiot was the top student in my promo in journalism school. This was a good school, known to create good journalists. This was because we had 4 mandatory internships in 4 different medias. The school already have partnership with said medias and choose the internships for you based on your preferences, your skills and your results. The idiot got the best internship there was at my country most important newspaper. Think something like the New York Times. 3 weeks into it, the idiot is caught for plagiarism. He is fired from the internship and immediately expelled from the school. In shame. Knew this one dude that was caught masturbated multiple times in a utilities closet. Yes, this is a throwaway. No, I am not him. Not me, but a friend. Let's call him Ben. Was expelled his sophomore year. Ben came from a very conservative Christian family. His father and grandfather were pastors. Ben went to the same religious college they did. That college had strict rules about dressing modestly and fraternization of opposite sexes. If I recall, there were different levels allowed that depended on age roll at school. Ben was caught off campus seeing a movie with a girl. Apparently they should have had a chaperone. I think it was also not the first time he had broken the rules. Ben was promptly expelled. His parents were so upset they sent him on a year-long mission overseas. Edited, cute part more than upset. I went to college right after high school and didn't really have direction as to what I wanted to pursue for a career. I signed up for classes and went because I was told you are supposed to go to college and get a degree. I started to not care about school about 3-4 semesters in and stopped putting forth effort. I decided I would rather work my job, drink with friends, and play my favorite video games. My grades tanked, and then I stopped going to finals and failed many courses. My university finally gave me a warning and then dismissed me. I spent a semester off before applying to the local community college down the road to pursue a career as an EMT. I found a passion for medicine and a desire to achieve something more than drugs, video games, and a dead-end job. I repaired my GPA by getting an associate's degree in arts, general AA, and then went back to the university that dismissed me. I eventually would graduate with a bachelor's degree in biochemistry and go on to medical school afterwards, where I would finish that chapter and start my residency training in family medicine. I'm almost done with intern year. Not US. I didn't show for my 2 classes on a Friday. I had an almost 2-hour commute every day and the classes on Friday were a joined class with our mentor to see if you were getting on well. And if you were, you would basically waste a good hour and a half while others moaned about how hard certain subjects were. We also had a class that was in preparation of a mandatory test you had to go throughout 3 years. If you failed both, you were done. Neither of these classes were mandatory. When I took the test the first time and got the highest score of anyone who took the test without ever being to the preparation classes, it surfaced that my mentor had actually decided that, since I was never in her class, I must have stopped attending altogether and expelled me. Loads of hassle after that. Decided to get my certificate for this test approved and then said duck you to the whole institution. I never went back to a college or uni afterwards and I'm in a really good position in my career now. 6 years later. My niece was expelled for fighting off a coked up hockey player. He was an ex-boyfriend and she's known him for years. He invited her to his off-campus house where she found him coked up, drunk and stoned and wanted to leave. He said no, blocked her from leaving a room, threw her into a mirror. She punched him in the nose, a D1 hockey player, and ran to campus security. While filing a statement with campus security, the local PD arrested her and refused to allow her to press charges. They do not do counter charges. Because he is an athlete, he is bound to Title IX. Had he been in any way responsible, he would have been suspended from the NCAA. Solution: suspend the woman. If you have an actual legal issue, never call campus security. Always call the police. Security protects the university, not the students. My dad teaches at a Christian college. I was forced to attend because hey, free tuition. I lasted 1 year then got kicked out for not being godly enough. I was so ducking happy. It was a stressful environment. Not the classes or professors. Some of the nicest people ever. It was the students and RAD in my dorm that made it awful. I'm not social at all, or religious. I also don't like being awoken at 2 AM by other girls on my floor blasting pop music as loud as possible. So I'd often get confronted about my attitude and why I didn't want to sit with my dorm mates at meal times. And they took my antisocialness as me being not right with the Lord. It was not me but a friend of mine who I was trying to help when he was a freshman. He saw us upperclassmen partying a lot and figured if we could do it so could he. I tried my best to get him to stop. Even got him banned from parties with my friends but he still failed out. I remember the first finals week for him. I asked him how he was going to do. I'll get 3 F's and 1 A. He was sure he was going to ace CS1. A week later he was on CRP, College Restoration Program. He failed all 4. I still do not understand how you go from being sure of acing one course to failing it. In CRP you take 3 courses on how to study, manage time etc and 1 major course. He was failing all 4 and withdrew under a medical leave to never return. He was smart enough but just lived to party and couldn't handle it. He never got a degree but is employed as a programmer. A kid who worked at my dining hall got expelled and presumably arrested for breaking into girls' dorm rooms and watching them sleep. He had been doing it for a while because people were noticing their doors were unlocked in the morning. He got caught when he tickled a girl's feet. She woke up and screamed. Her roommate woke up and screamed. We all screamed and I picked up his shifts. Wasn't expelled but damn near. Junior year I took an elective class called reading fiction. Cool class but the teacher was extremely strict and took the class very serious. I'm alright at writing papers, and this class involved heavy writing about writing techniques, symbolism, foreshadowing, act. We were assigned to read a book that I can't remember the name, but I wasn't into it at all. I struggled to finish it and struggled even more to write a detailed paper on it. I slammed out the minimal page requirement and sources needed. It was not my best work, but it was serviceable. I get an email from the teacher a few days later saying he would like me to come into his office hours. He accused me of plagiarizing certain segments of my paper, which I did not, and was ready to send my case to the dean. Apparently some things I sourced in my paper were done incorrectly, which lead him to believe I straight copy and pasted from the internet. The second hour of office time was him passive aggressively calling me an idiot. Friend got kicked out for not showing up to classes. Dumb bus. Now he is 12k in debt and got nothing from the experience. I was expelled from all college residences for stumbling home from the pub, finding an unlocked door in the food hall, taking 3 10-liter tubs of ice cream and going around on a bike blasting green sleeves pretending to be an ice cream truck at 2 AM. I got kicked out of BU, the Mormon private university, for not going to church. You have to maintain 80% church attendance alongside a whole slew of things, or your local religious leader can pull your ecclesiastical endorsement, which gives you the okay to keep attending. I had stopped believing in the Mormon faith my senior year of high school, but only applied to BU because I loved the sports program and thought I could fake it for 4 years so I could get sweet student section tickets. Only applying to one college, a religious school, entirely for cheap sports tickets was a terrible mistake. Obligatory not me, but my girlfriend. Her university expelled a bunch of students who talked to their friends about their depression and thoughts of self-harm. Seriously, this ass backwards university discriminated against a ton of students with mental illness and are now being investigated by the Department of Justice. Punched holes in the walls while drunk. Yep, I was stupid. Got expelled myself. Second year medicine student. Came back from a heavy night of drinking. Lit up a Marlboro Red and subsequently passed out from the drink. Woke up dazedly to huge hands grabbing me by the scruff of my t-shirt and tossing me from the room and dragging me backwards out the shared flat we had. Firefighters had responded to the multiple phone calls of smoke coming from my window and saved me from death by smoke inhalation. Slept at a friend's house that night. I was a mess, still not fully comprehending what happened. When we went back the next day to collect my belongings and the full room was torched, surprisingly the rest of the house was left intact. I lost everything. And I mean everything. My family's home was 200 plus miles away and I had no phone, wallet, clothes, everything I owned destroyed because of my own stupidity. I hacked into my IT security professor's Blackboard account and posted a general notice to the class about the importance of choosing a strong password. In my defense, we were challenged every exam that if we could guess the test login password, then we got an automatic perfect score. Really, that may have been said in jest, but I decided to try instead for the professor's master password, a short dictionary attack later, and I had it. It was actually a pretty weak, common, non-capped, alpha only word. I waited until after the final exam and posted a quote from our textbook about weak passwords that seemed to come from her account. When I showed up for my test results and another final exam, I was escorted by security to an emergency dean meeting. A couple of weeks later I received mail telling me I was suspended for a term. I fought it and lost. The college claimed I had incited panic amongst the students. The suspension disqualified the funding I was receiving to help pay for the school. On an update, I transferred to a different college and finished my bachelor's degree in IT last year. Got caught sitting in a study room alone with a woman who was quietly studying as well, and we didn't even know each other. I go to college in a conservative country where men and women intermingling is considered taboo. I have severe depression. I had about a 3.25 GPA going into finals week, however the stress had gotten to me and I tried to kill myself. I was in the hospital for 3 days and missed 4 out of my 5 finals. My university has a strict rules on medical withdrawal. While I fit into the criteria, the rules said that you can't medically withdraw the Friday of dead week, and if you miss a final it's auto F, so I ended up with a 0.5 GPA, so I was expelled for poor grades. I peed onto a rival fraternity's back porch. The lights were off at their house, so I didn't know they were all inside having movie night. They all saw. My master sergeant was kicked out of college for throwing a flaming couch through the dorm window. He tried to argue to the dean that he was just saving lives, but since he was the one who lit it on fire, it didn't buy him much sympathy.